If you've ever been swept away by a suit sprite, soared on the back of a dragon, or, taken a ride on a magical cat bus, then you know the work of Studio Ghibli. And behind all that magic is one name, Hayao Miyazaki. He's a master storyteller and honestly one of the most accomplished filmmakers in the entire history of animation. And his influence? It's truly global. I mean, his characters aren't just confined to a screen. They're literally living on city walls, in our homes, and just in our collective imagination. The love for his work has pretty much crossed every border you can think of. Okay, so let's really get into it. To truly understand a film like Spirited Away or My Neighbor Totoro, we kind of have to understand the man who dreamed it all up. What were the experiences that forged his unique and incredibly powerful vision? Well, Miyazaki's story begins in a world of stark contrasts. His childhood was defined by the roaring engines of warplanes on one hand and the quiet strength of his family on the other. Just think about this. He was born right in the middle of World War II. His family had to flee their home, and when he was just 4 years old, he actually witnessed the firebombing of his city. Not long after, his mother began this long, difficult battle with spinal tuberculosis, which meant she spent years in a hospital. These early hardships, they left a mark, for sure. And what's really remarkable is how you can see these experiences show up directly in his films. His family was well off because his father's company manufactured parts for fighter planes, which seeded this lifelong, really complex fascination with flight. His memories of bombed-out cities fueled the powerful anti-war themes you see in his work. And his mother, this strict, intelligent woman who questioned social norms, she became the template for his iconic, self-sufficient heroines. So, after years of working as an animator at different studios, Miyazaki was ready to create a space where his artistic vision could finally take flight. He was ready to start a revolution. It's amazing to see how just one project paved the way for, well, everything. In the early 80s, when he had no films in production, he agreed to create a manga for a magazine called Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. It was a huge success, which led to a film adaptation that he also directed. And the success of that film gave him and his colleague Isao Takahata the foundation they needed to co-found their very own studio. And this is it, the home they built for their art, Studio Ghibli, which opened its doors in 1985. This wasn't just a building, it was a promise of a totally new way of making animation.
Even the name itself is basically a mission statement. Miyazaki, who loves aviation, named it after an Italian aircraft, the Capronica 309 Ghibli. The word means a hot Saharan desert wind, which perfectly captures what they wanted to do, blow a fresh, powerful wind through the entire world of animation.
Now, with their own studio, Miyazaki and his team were totally free to create some of the most beloved and acclaimed animated films of all time. And each one is just rich with these recurring, deeply personal themes. Okay, look at this number. 30.4 billion yen. That's the domestic box office for Spirited Away in Japan. It became the country's highest-grossing film, a record it held for almost 20 years, and it went on to win the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature, which really cemented Ghibli's global reputation. This philosophy is right at the heart of his greatest characters. I mean, think of Chihiro, Kiki, or Nausicaa. In his own words, his female characters are brave, self-sufficient girls that don't think twice about fighting for what they believe in. They are partners in their own stories, never damsels in distress. The films weren't just critical darlings, they became cultural touchstones. My Neighbor Totoro was only a modest box office success at first, believe it or not, but the character became so beloved that the merchandise profits alone were enough to financially sustain Studio Ghibli for years. Across all his films, you start to see these powerful ideas pop up again and again. He's constantly exploring our delicate relationship with nature, the deep struggle of pacifism, and this profound respect for craftsmanship. His films also rarely have a simple bad guy. Even as antagonists often have understandable motives and, redeeming qualities. Even as the world and the animation industry changed all around him, Miyazaki has remained a fierce, outspoken, and completely uncompromising artist. And yeah, he has never been shy with his criticisms of modern anime. He famously said the industry is filled with otaku, which he described as people who can't stand looking at other humans and are more interested in themselves than in actually observing the world around them. The contrast in their philosophies is just stark. His approach has always been grounded in meticulous, hand-drawn animation that's based on carefully observing real people and movement. And he sees a modern industry that's increasingly relying on tropes and technological shortcuts, and in the process, losing that connection to humanity.
His stance on artificial intelligence in art is absolute. When a team presented him with an AI that had learned to animate these grotesque, zombie-like movements, he was just disgusted. It reminded him of a friend with a disability, and he called the project an insult to life itself, saying the creators had no idea what pain is.
He's tried to retire multiple times, citing his age and failing eyesight. He even held a farewell party back in 1998, but that urge to create, it always pulls him back. In 2023, he released The Boy and the Heron, which won him his second Academy Award, making him the oldest director to ever win that award. And in the end, this is why he just can't stop. For Miyazaki, filmmaking isn't a job. This signature, it represents a promise. He oversees every single frame of his films, making it a deeply personal, hands-on craft. It's an extension of his own life and his own worldview. So that leaves us with a pretty critical question. Miyazaki has spent over 60 years championing animation that is painstakingly crafted by human hands, born from real observation and real emotion. As technology offers us ever easier ways to generate content, his life's work really challenges us to think about what we value in art and what might be lost when we remove the human heart from the process.